On the outskirts of San Diego, in a quiet residential neighborhood, stood a single-story house surrounded by a white picket fence. Every first Sunday of the month, its walls would fill with the warm laughter of family. This was the home of Dorothy Thompson.
Emma, dear, could you help me with the casserole? Dorothy's voice called from the kitchen. Hearing it, Emma smiled and stood up. She worked as a nurse at the local hospital, but she treasured the time she spent with her mother-in-law above all else. Though she and Michael had been married for 5 years, Dorothy had treated her like a true daughter from the very beginning. Taking the steaming dish, Emma once again admired Dorothy's efficiency. Her movements were quick and precise, and her culinary talents were acknowledged by the entire family. With her graying hair neatly arranged and wearing her customary apron, she was the very embodiment of the ideal mother. "Michael, is the table set?" Dorothy asked. "Almost finished." Her husband's voice came back from the living room. Michael worked as a designer at a local aerospace company. Tall with a gentle personality, he was known for his devotion to his mother. Even after graduating from college, he had chosen to live near his childhood home, and after getting married, he continued to visit her every week. The front door burst open with energy. "I'm home!" "Sorry I'm late!" Jessica's cheerful voice echoed through the house. She worked as a sales clerk in a fashion boutique downtown. 3 years ago, after her divorce, she had returned to her childhood home and had been living with her mother ever since. "Jessie, welcome home," Emma called out. "Was it a busy day?" "Yes, weekends are always hectic," Jessica answered with a smile, though she looked tired. "But I'm expecting a good bonus at the end of the month." Jessica always kept up with her appearance and dressed fashionably. She never spoke in detail about her divorce, but the family knew it was due to her ex-husband's infidelity. Since returning home, she had taken good care of her mother, and Dorothy seemed genuinely happy to have her daughter back. "Everyone, to the table, please," Dorothy announced, appearing in the dining room with a large platter. "I made roast beef especially for you." The 4 family members gathered around the round dining table. This scene had remained unchanged for 5 years. Dorothy's cooking was always exquisite, and although Emma tried to get the recipes each time, her mother-in-law would just laugh and say, "It's years of intuition, my dear," never sharing her secrets. "Mom, this is incredibly delicious," said Emma. "I hope I can learn to cook for my family like this someday." "Emma, you're already a wonderful cook." Dorothy smiled happily. "Michael is always bragging about you." "Mom, you didn't have to say that," Michael muttered, embarrassed. "But it's true. You found yourself a wonderful wife." Jessica raised her wine glass. "To Mom's cooking and to Emma's dedicated work." "And to Michael's promotion," Dorothy added. Last month, Michael had become the chief engineer of his department. As their glasses clinked, Emma once again felt the warmth of this family. Her own parents lived on the other side of the country, and she only saw them once a year. But at Dorothy's house, she could enjoy moments like this every month. The dinner continued. Jessica talked about her work. New designer brands are coming in, and sales are good, but the customers are getting more and more demanding. "That must be difficult." Dorothy looked at her with concern. "Don't overwork yourself." "I'm fine, Mom. By the way, how is Michael's new project going?" Michael briefly explained his work, but with all the technical details, the women, though listening with interest, didn't fully understand. Nevertheless, the family was genuinely happy for his success. When it was time for dessert, Dorothy brought out a homemade apple pie. "This is Emma's favorite, isn't it?" "I'm in heaven," Emma said. "Even when I come home exhausted from the hospital, just the memory of this taste gives me energy." Such casual conversations and mutual care only strengthened this family's bonds. After dinner, the 4 of them sat in the living room, drinking coffee and sharing news. When it was time for Michael and Emma to leave, Dorothy came out to see them off. "As always, drive safely. I'll see you next week." In the car, Emma said to her husband, "Your mother is truly a wonderful woman. We are so lucky." "That's right. Mom is our pride and joy," Michael answered with satisfaction. On Monday morning, Emma returned home after her night shift. After a shower, she was about to lie down when her phone rang loudly. The clock read 6:30 a.m. A call this early could only mean one thing: an emergency. Jessica's name appeared on the screen. "Jessie, what's wrong?" Emma answered with a sense of foreboding. From the other end of the line came a trembling voice. "Emma, something terrible has happened. Mom has collapsed." Emma's heart stopped for a moment. "What did you say?" "What do you mean?" "I called an ambulance. We're on our way to St. Mary's Hospital. Please, come quickly." Jessica's voice was breaking with tears. Emma instantly regained her composure, as a nurse would. "Jessie, calm down. What happened? Was she conscious?" "I woke up, brought breakfast to her room, and she was on the floor beside the bed. She wouldn't respond. The paramedics are doing CPR, but—" "I understand," Emma interrupted, already pulling on her clothes. "I'll wake Michael, and we'll head over right away." Hanging up, she shook her husband. "Michael, wake up!" "Your mother collapsed. We have to go to the hospital." Michael didn't immediately grasp what was happening, but seeing Emma's serious expression, he understood the gravity of the situation. "Mom? But how?" "I don't know the details. Jessica called an ambulance. They're taking her to St. Mary's." They dressed quickly. The drive, which usually took 20 minutes, stretched to half an hour in the morning traffic. "She was so healthy just yesterday," Michael murmured, constantly checking the clock. "I hope this is some kind of mistake." Emma squeezed his hand tightly, though her own heart was heavy with anxiety. As a nurse, she knew how serious an early morning cardiac arrest could be. At the hospital, they found Jessica sobbing in the waiting room. "Emma," she cried, burying her face in the shoulder of her sister-in-law, whom she looked up to like a sister. "The doctor won't tell me anything, only that it's serious." Soon, an ER doctor approached them. From his heavy expression, Emma immediately knew the worst had happened. "Are you Mrs. Thompson's family?" he asked quietly. "Please, have a seat." Emma understood everything. She knew what those words meant. "I'm very sorry. Mrs. Dorothy Thompson passed away at 7:15 a.m. from an acute myocardial infarction." Jessica's scream echoed through the hall. Michael collapsed into a chair, all the color draining from his face. "It was a massive heart attack," the doctor continued sympathetically. "It likely happened in her sleep. She would have felt very little pain." Suppressing her own grief, Emma tried to support her family, but she herself was heartbroken. Dorothy had loved her like a real daughter. The next few hours were a blur of paperwork and phone calls. The family had to arrange the funeral. Jessica, despite her emotional state, took charge of the details. "I want to decorate the hall with Mom's favorite white roses," she said, wiping away tears. "She always grew them in the garden. And I want them to sing Amazing Grace at the funeral and give guests the recipe for her apple pie." Emma was touched. It would be a warm farewell, worthy of Dorothy. That evening, the three of them returned to her house. The home, usually so bright, was now shrouded in silence. On the kitchen counter were the leftovers from their last dinner together. "I can still smell her scent," Jessica wept. All night they looked through family photos. In every single picture, Dorothy was smiling. "Mom was so devoted to her family," Jessica said. "When I came back after my divorce, she accepted me without a single question." "She was the best mother to me, too," Michael answered, his voice thick with tears. The night before the funeral, they finalized all the arrangements. Everything seemed ready for the farewell. The next morning, as she zipped up her black dress, Emma looked at her tired face in the mirror. "Michael, are you ready?" she called out. "Almost," her husband replied, putting on his suit. Emma was mentally running through the day's schedule when Michael quietly said, "I'm not going—" "What did you say?" "I'm not going to Mom's funeral," he repeated, in a tone as if he were discussing the weather. "Michael, what are you talking about? It's your mother's funeral. We have to say goodbye." "I know, but I'm not going. And you're staying home too. Trust me." "Trust you with what? Explain what's happening." "I can't right now, but please just stay home today." In her husband's eyes, she saw a fear she had never seen before. "Is this related to Mom's death?" "Possibly," he answered after a short hesitation. Just then the phone rang. It was Jessica. Looking directly at Michael, Emma lied. "Jessie, Michael is suddenly sick. He has a fever. We'll have to stay home." Hanging up, she felt disgusted with herself for lying. but her husband's serious expression convinced her there was a compelling reason. At 2 p.m., just as the service was supposed to begin, Michael suddenly stood up and peeked through the curtain. "Michael, what is it?" At that moment, the doorbell rang. Once, twice, 3 times, insistently. "Don't open it," Michael whispered. "Look through the peephole, but whatever you do, do not open that door." Emma's heart was pounding. Behind the door stood a large man in a black suit. He was clutching a small black bag. "Who is he?" Emma asked, her voice trembling. Michael's face turned pale. "Just as I thought." He was already dialing 911. "I need the police. A possible home invasion. The address is," he said into the phone. "Lives are in danger. Please, hurry." Emma's blood ran cold. Outside footsteps sounded as the man circled the house, checking the windows. "Emma, get away from the windows. Go upstairs and hide in the bedroom." "Michael, you said this was related to Mom. What is happening?" "Mom didn't die by accident," he replied, peering through a gap in the curtains. "And now they're targeting us." In the distance, sirens began to wail. The man at the door seemed to be about to leave. "Emma, go upstairs now," Michael yelled. From the bedroom window, Emma watched as police officers surrounded the house. The man in the black suit tried to slip out through the backyard, but was caught and surrendered, raising his hands. An officer carefully opened the black bag he was carrying. Emma ran downstairs. Michael was already talking to a detective. "Mr. Thompson, this man is a professional hitman," the gray-haired detective explained. "We found a gun in his bag, along with photographs of you and your wife." Emma's legs gave out from under her. The detective showed them pictures that had been taken last week. "But why?" she whispered. Michael retrieved an envelope from a drawer and handed it to them. Inside was a letter, written in Dorothy's handwriting. "Dear Michael, if I die suddenly, please read this. I saw Jessica putting something in my food. At first, I thought I was mistaken, but my recent poor health might be because of it. If something happens to me, do not come to the funeral. It's dangerous. Please protect yourself and Emma. Love, Mom." Emma sank to the floor. "Jessie, it can't be." "When did you receive this letter?" the detective asked. "A week before she died," Michael answered. "I thought it was just her imagination. How could I suspect my own sister? But when she died, I couldn't ignore this warning." The detective picked up his phone. "I'm contacting the hospital to order a re-examination of Mrs. Thompson's body, including a full toxicology screening." Just then, another officer reported the results of the hitman's interrogation. "Detective, the suspect has confessed. He was hired by Jessica Thompson to stage a fatal accident at the funeral home. The plan was to make it look like faulty lighting equipment fell on you. If you both died, the entire inheritance, a house and savings totaling about $2 million, would go to her. Jessica, it turned out, had racked up around $300,000 in debts from gambling and overspending. She was desperate. A call came from the hospital. Dorothy's blood contained traces of digitalis, a heart medication that acts as a poison in large doses. It had likely been administered in small amounts over a long period of time. "Your mother knew she was being poisoned," Emma said through her tears, "but she loved her daughter to the very end and couldn't go to the police without proof." The detectives left for the funeral home to arrest Jessica. During the arrest, she screamed, "Why are you alive? Why didn't you die as planned?" In Jessica's apartment, they found a notebook detailing the entire murder plot. The warning letter from Dorothy, written with her last ounce of strength, had saved their lives. 6 months later, Michael and Emma were clearing out Dorothy's house. Jessica had been sentenced to life in prison. In a closet, Michael found another small diary. "I'm worried about Jessica's debts," Dorothy had written, "but she gets angry when I ask, so I can only watch over her quietly. I don't want to cause trouble for Michael and Emma. They will be okay. True family is determined not by blood, but by the bonds of the heart." On the final page, it read, "When I see Michael and Emma laughing happily together, I feel happy too. They can overcome any difficulty. My greatest treasure is this warm family bond." They decided to sell the house and start a new life. They moved to a small home on the outskirts of Portland and hung Dorothy's photograph in the living room. Every morning, Emma placed a single white rose in front of it. In their lives and at their new jobs, they carried forward the lesson of love they had learned from Dorothy. One day, standing at her grave, Emma placed a bouquet of white roses on the stone. "Mom, we are doing well, and every day we remember the importance of the love you taught us." Michael placed his hand on the headstone. "Thank you for protecting us until the very end. We will never forget your love." A breeze blew, and the petals of the white roses danced in the air as if it were Dorothy's reply. Hand in hand, Emma and Michael walked on toward their new life, carrying in their hearts the love they inherited from a woman who lived for her family until her final breath.